Okay, so this is just basically a brief overview of the readings for this week for CEP 917. All of the three chapters, the readings that we're having you do, come from Csikszentmihalyi, or Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, I should say is his full name, a psychological researcher, Hungarian psychologist whose research and writing focuses on the subjects of happiness and creativity, in general, just positive psychological states, and he's most notably known for the concept of flow. If you've heard of him before, you've probably heard of this idea of flow, or an optimal state of being. But really what we're concerned with in this week's readings is the idea of the relationship between people and things, the role of material objects in our life, and how the artificial world, this world of objects around us that we've designed, actually ends up designing us, in a sense. Csikszentmihalyi focuses on this idea of people and things, what people are, what they might become, the idea of how the world of objects around us helps construct this process of becoming something for us as society and as individuals, what goes on between people and things. So he starts from this idea of what's a person, and even though that might seem like something that's fairly intuitive, we all know what a person is, we all are a person, he's primarily concerned with personhood and the idea of how we construct ourselves, how we're created throughout our lives by the world around us. And he considers the work of several great psychologists and philosophers. So throughout the three chapters, you'll note some discussion of Descartes, Carl Jung, Sigmund Freud, Karl Marx, all of them revolving around this idea of what it means to be a person and how that's reflected in and acted upon by the world around us. The idea of cultivation comes up quite a bit, and in that, basically what Csikszentmihalyi is saying, that who we are as people and as individuals is cultivated. It's an actively constructed process of interacting with the material world. So as people, we're the result of many forces and experiences in our lives that help shape ourselves, and part of this is a transactional relationship with objects. He comes back again and again to this idea of attention focused on goals. At some points, he'll talk about it as psychic energy focused upon intention. But at a basic level, it's this idea that part of what it means to be human is the ability to direct our cognition, our energies, our mental processes at achieving goals, oftentimes through designing or creating things in the world around us, or designing things to help us achieve certain goals. The idea of attention directed toward intention is also part of this. So man-made objects are things that are shaped with intention, with purpose. It comes back to that idea that design is always done with a purpose in mind. This is something that he points out is quite different from the natural world, in that designed objects are given shape by the human investment of psychic energy. And again, focused attention toward intention is a key part of what it means to be human. It brings us back again to this idea of the relationship with material things, something that Csikszentmihalyi comments upon and suggests has very powerful consequences for us as humans, both at a societal level and also at an individual level. So we shape objects, we shape things in the world around us, and then they act back upon us, and they shape us and influence our development in society and our development as individuals. Just a few examples. Objects can give us physical power. He notes the example of a spear, which is used by a certain tribe who has long since moved away from its hunter-gatherer roots towards a more pastoral society, yet they still carry this spear because it's, in their view, imbued with a sense of physical power. And there are many objects around us in the world like that. They can convey a sense of status. He notes that people at similar levels of status in society tend to have the same types of possessions or things, and objects can reflect this sort of status in many different ways. They can reflect emotion, both through artistic and aesthetic experiences, and by allowing us entry into the past, or the ability to get caught up in reminisce. And he mentions the example of like a photo album is something that's simply an object, but for someone who's interacting with it, it's an emotional experience. And finally, he highlights this idea of objects being able to help us create environments, particularly around our homes, our offices, environments of familiarity and comfort based on the things that we choose and how they reflect back upon us. He takes on the idea that objects are neutral. This is something of an existential idea that an object is just a thing, that it has no intrinsic properties until we give it them, but this is something that Csikszentmihalyi in some sense disagrees with, and he suggests that objects do have inherent properties. They have physicality, they have qualitative properties, they have properties related to the things that we intend them to do towards what they're designed to do. And that these inherent properties actually govern the way that we as people interact with them. And that through this interaction, then, we socially construct meanings around objects, and that they, in a sense, take on a life of their own with social meanings that have been created through interaction, through what they are intrinsically. So this brings us back to, in a sense, where we started, this idea of a transactional relationship, and that how we interact with objects is part of this idea of cultivation, or cultivation of the self. And this is in some sense a mediation between people and objects, and a way that we find meaning making in ourselves. We give objects meaning, and they, based on how we live, work, play, interact with them, help create meaning within ourselves. And this all leads into this larger assignment that we're having you do in class of a photo essay, the social life of things. So as you can imagine, there are quite a few topics and ideas in these Csikszentmihalyi readings which relate to this. And Punya and I specifically placed the readings at this early point in the semester so that you would be able to use some of them and incorporate them in your photo essay assignment. If you'll remember, you're not just taking photos and captioning them, but also at the end including about 1,000 words of commentary on the process and the meaning of things resulting from your photo essay. And we think that some of the ideas and some of the things in Csikszentmihalyi should be useful to you there. And with that, we just want to say have fun. We hope that you enjoy the readings and the photo assignment, and we look forward to speaking with you more in class about them.